In 1978, two men shook hands, and for a moment, the world held its breath. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem begin, leaders of nations that had only known war. Signed what many thought was impossible, the Camp David Accords. It was a peace treaty born not from friendship, but from a profound and courageous exhaustion with conflict. For this single act of bravery, they were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize not for ending all wars, but for proving that even the most bitter enemies can dare to dream of peace. That handshake was so much more than a historical photograph. It was a powerful declaration that peace isn't born from love, but from the conscious decision to stop hating. It was Sadat who famously said, "You don't make peace with your friends, you make peace with your enemies." He was right, and that simple, profound truth still echoes across the Middle East today, a region where every sunrise carries the weight of memory and the fragile glimmer of hope. It was a recognition that shared humanity could, just possibly, outweigh generations of animosity. Decades later, the world feels like it's teetering on the edge once more. Walls are growing higher, both physically and metaphorically. The rhetoric of leaders has grown louder, more divisive. Words like trust or compromise can sound almost naive in the face of such entrenched hostility. We seem to have forgotten the lessons of the past. Yet, history whispers a reminder. Once, two leaders dared to believe in a different future. Once, the capitals of Cairo and Jerusalem spoke to each other not as rivals locked in a zero-sum game, but as survivors of endless cycles of violence. Their courage reshaped the destinies of generations. Today, the region trembles again under the strain of new conflicts, new divisions, and old fears that seem too deep-rooted to ever die. The storm of conflict rages, and it's easy to feel hopeless. But even in this storm, if you look closely, new seeds of cooperation are quietly taking root. Far from the glare of headlines, you'll find collaborative projects in water conservation, in renewable energy, and in technology. Young entrepreneurs in Tel Aviv, Amman, Abu Dhabi, and Cairo are already working together, building connections not through formal treaties, but through shared ideas and mutual goals. Perhaps the next great peace won't come from signatures on a piece of paper, but from the quiet, determined pursuit of a shared purpose. Just imagine for a moment a Middle East where knowledge replaces ideology, where innovation becomes the new language of diplomacy. Imagine universities shared between nations, their doors open to all. Picture Israeli medical expertise being taught in Damascus, Jordanian engineers building solar fields in Gaza, Egyptian architects helping to restore the ancient city of Aleppo, and Saudi investors funding clean water projects for everyone in the region. This isn't a fantasy, it's a choice. It's a future that is entirely possible if we choose to build it. It's a vision built not on erasing history, but on learning from it to create something better. The first Camp David was a treaty signed by politicians. The second Camp David could be a mindset embraced by the people. Because true, lasting peace isn't just the absence of war, it's the presence of something better. It's the presence of education, of trade, of cultural exchange, of simple human curiosity. It's about creating connections that make conflict unthinkable. Sadat and Begin planted a tree of peace. Over time, it withered under the harsh climate of conflict and mistrust, but its roots are still there, deep in the soil, waiting for hands brave enough to dig again and nurture it back to life. If there is hope, it lies not only with leaders in grand halls, but with ordinary people who decide that the burden of fear is simply too heavy to carry any longer. It lies with the Muslims, Jews and Christians, the children of the same desert, the heirs of the same ancient stories who choose to see their shared heritage instead of their divisions. The Middle East was once the cradle of civilization, a wellspring of art, science, and philosophy for the entire world. It can be that again. It can be the cradle of reconciliation. All it takes is what Anwar Sadat gave the world all those years ago, not perfection, but the raw, unyielding courage to take the first step. When Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin stood together to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, they stood under the same light to former enemies who dared to imagine a different tomorrow. Their names and their words may have faded from the daily headlines, but their most important lesson remains as relevant as ever. Peace is not a miracle that falls from the sky. It's a decision, a difficult, deliberate, and courageous decision. And it's one the world can, and must, still make. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that makes you think. Until next time, stay curious.